It's when other entities that are not incarnate um, have not passed over. So when someone dies, naturally they pass into another dimension, and then they kind of move on their spiritual journey. They meet their guides and they get taken into the afterlife. But some souls don't, and they kind of still hang around and linger in our 3D system, and they need to stay alive. They need a source of energy so they can actually attach themselves to a living being. If your vibration is low enough, they're usually when a soul doesn't move on, their vibration is always pretty low because they don't realize what's happened and they're in a state of loss and desperation. And they can attach themselves to someone else who's feeling the same vibration.
Welcome to a Broaderlands podcast.
The opinions expressed on Broaderlands podcast are those of the guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Broaderlands podcast. Jade, welcome to Broaderlands podcast. It's an honor and privilege.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Boo Boo. It's an honor and a privilege for me too.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe I'll have you introduce yourself since I tend to mess that up, and maybe you can describe some of the work you do and who you are.
Always difficult to introduce oneself. It's how do we put labels on us and put us in categories and boxes? It's actually the hardest thing for me to do. I am a teacher of spirituality, I guess, enlightenment, mysticism. I teach a type of meditation, special meditation called the Djed Meditations. I'm a channel. I help people through energy work, and I am the author of Divine Love, the Winged Beings of Light.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Djed teachings, huh? That comes from ancient Kemet, right?
It does, actually. Djed is they were kind of like warriors. I mean, I really don't like using the word warriors, but they were, let's say, peacekeepers for freedom, against oppression, and maintaining peace, really, for humanity and sort of intergalactic stuff. And originally, I don't know if you've heard of the Djed pillars.
I've seen a lot of them there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where these meditations stem from. And actually it's stuff that has come to me. I never knew anything about this stuff. I found out about it after I started doing the meditations.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, my journey is just unfolding every moment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
New information all the time.
That's interesting. You never studied the stuff and it came to you.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing when I was doing the meditations. I didn't know. And I was kind of like put this information right in front of me, and I was, oh my God. Yeah, madness.
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures of them I took when I was there with the Jed and the Ankh. It's
Right.
just gorgeous. It was just so gorgeous and amazing to be there. And I know that place is way older than what we're told. Way older.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Well, have you heard about the spaceship underneath the pyramid?
I heard about that, but
Yeah. It's mad. In the Emerald tablets, I don't know if you've read that. Yeah. Mad, the stuff that's connected. I don't know. It's mad, but it's so true, because I mean, in a way, it's becoming more believable for me now, all this stuff, because more and more evidence comes up. More light gets shone on so many different things that I didn't think were ever possible are now becoming more possible than ever. So
yeah, I think that's how we got the 10 Commandments. That came from ancient Kemet as well. The 42 laws of Maya.
Yeah, well, even I think way even before that, weren't they part of the Sumerian tablets also?
Yeah,
And then even I'm now learning about stuff way before that time.
yeah.
Like,
Because a
it's
lot of
just
stuff
like
in the Sumerian
crazy.
tablets they believe are far older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just like I have to kind of wipe out everything I've been taught, you know, I, everything. I mean, from religion to politics to government to history, absolutely everything. Because I'm just finding out for myself. I think it's all lies upon lies what we've been taught.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I feel the same
massively.
way.
So
Yeah, maybe you can walk us into. You said you had some experiences with someone casting a spell on you. You know.
yes, yes. I had the experience. I never know whether to say whether it was the benevolent experience. People always say, yeah, you'll find out in the long term why it was all good and all of that. But I mean, I still am recovering from the trauma of it. But I was um, put under a black magic spell, voodoo, very strong voodoo, when I was in Jamaica making a film because I used to make documentaries. And yeah, but I think someone was just threatened by me. Yeah, this person put a spell on me. I know who did it. It wasn't someone that knew me very well, and I didn't realize it had happened until many years afterwards. But I mean, so I didn't have it removed. Didn't know how to have it removed. Didn't even know how to spell. But my life was really, really, I mean, it was very up and down, but in a very turbulent way, which is not normal. And I realized I was under a spell. I thought I kind of had an inkling, but I thought, well, this can't be true. But then, I thought, well, no, it has to. This is only can be some sort of black magic,
Hmm.
and carried it for about 17 years. So
Wow.
really big trauma in my life because it's the period where your whole career. I was like 28 or 29 when it happened, and it wasn't until my early 40s that I had it taken off.
Wow.
So affected every area of my life massively.
How did you come to that conclusion that someone casted a spell on you? Like, what happened? Did something happen, or?
Yeah, something happened. So I was called to put my finger on a coin. There's somebody specifically asked me for my fingerprint, and I thought this is really odd, really, really odd thing for someone to ask me. But um, I was very intimidated by the person. It's someone who had been intimidating me for a long time, and I thought, and they'd wanted me to come over for a long time. And I thought, okay, let's just do this thing, finish it, and then I don't have to see this person again. And so I did, and I very reluctantly put my fingerprint on a coin. And the reason I did it is because I was one of these people. I mean, I've always been very, very spiritual and my life very synchronistic. And I thought, well, God protects me. I know I'm protected. I have all the angels and everything. Nothing can happen to me. I don't believe in this nonsense. If you don't believe in something, it can't happen to you, right?
Mm.
And so I did. And the moment I did it, or that evening, the next day, my energy was in turmoil. Something was not right.
Wow.
Then eventually it becomes kind of normal, or it normalizes and you forget about it. But from that moment, I never got things done.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew something had happened. But you don't really know. But at a certain point, I never really recovered, and my life got so dramatic. I mean, really dramatic. I'd lost my home, I lost my job, many, many things, which was not normal for me. and I never could get back where I was. And I mean, I lost my friends, I lost touch with family members. I mean, it's a very, very tough time. And
Wow.
it went on like that forever, until about I, realized I had to sort of think about getting healing. Now, I wasn't someone who was even into spirituality. I mean, I was in the sense that I was highly spiritual, but I never needed any help. I wasn't someone who went to healers or anything like that. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I was very much on the path. And it came to a certain point where, I hadn't been able to get a job for something like at least 12 or 13 years. I couldn't work. And every time I got near to getting a job, it would last about 3 or 4 months on a really crap salary. And I'm a highly educated person. I mean, I've got a master's and everything from a fantastic university, and something's not right here.
Wow.
I'd also won many awards in filmmaking before, and I mean, I couldn't even get a job. I mean, I lost all connections very dramatically, very quickly.
Wow. How did
Yeah.
you find out that this person or people casted a spell on you? Did you eventually come some kind of realization? Someone tell
Well,
you? Or?
um, Boo Boo, I went through a series of healings and nobody could heal me. No one could help me. A lot of people kept saying, oh, healers, it's in your head, or it's this, or it's that. And I knew it wasn't. I knew there was something not right. And I had to then start healing myself. So I started to get all the information that I could. I started to do all the, really deep meditation works. And it was to the point where I was really broken. And I actually started to channel at that point. And through the channeling, I was told what happened to me.
Wow.
That, and also, I eventually found a healer. I had a series of very quick synchronicities which were life-changing at a very, very low point where I was like, I can't get worse even more. I mean, I was already on the curb for a long time. And I had a couple of divine interventions which put me in touch with somebody who was able to tell me exactly what happened to me. And she described everything, the event and everything, without me saying anything to her. And I was like, I knew it. It was that. And that was the beginning of healing.
Wow.
But it was a process after that. It was quite a long process.
Wonder why they would do that to you.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've been told, now I've spoken to many different healers and people and psychics and stuff, and people have said to me, you've got such a massive energy and presence, and I could see why people would be very threatened by you. And this was very unknowing to me because I'm not someone who naturally knows that I have a huge presence. I'm aware of it now, but I've just me doing my thing. That's just the way I am. I'm very confident. I always have been. And that's just innate. But that, and also I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if there's a spiritual, if there's, I don't know. I honestly don't know why it happened to me. I'm still on that side of like trying to find the benefits.
You think you signed it up? You signed up for this stuff before you came into
Well, I
this
don't
life?
know. This is I honestly have to say that because At the time, I had massive warnings against this situation. I had a huge dream. I was not supposed to really, seems like, go to Jamaica in the first place. I mean, I've always been very connected with spiritual energies, and I've, had massive those dreams where spirit guides come and talk to you and things like that. No, I had massive warnings. I ignored them all. So I don't know. I honestly don't know if it was meant to happen or not, because I was on a good path. And to be honest, I'm still not back to what I was. And I'm still trying to understand if I even learned anything from it.
What did the healing process look like for you in the shadow? You mentioned shadow work. Did you do a lot of shadow work? What did you do to heal from this trauma and this drama and all this
Right.
suffering that you were trapped in?
Yeah, very, very, very tough, because when you're under a spell, it's impossible to get healing. You're trapped. First of all, it's like being a zombie. You don't realize really that you're not conscious of the fact that you have a spell, but you know something's not right. The only way I can describe it is that I once had a dream where, if you think this is like the ground, I was in a tunnel here living my life, and the real world was up there. And it was one of these awakening dreams, and that's how it is. And that was my world under there. And you can't break through. You're not even if I would try to look for work and do things, but in the end the response is always no, or no one replies, or it's like you're invisible. And very difficult. So it wasn't until very, very, very late, maybe towards after around 13 years of carrying it, where I had a real crux. I mean, I had hundreds of breakdowns. This was like the finale breakdown. And the winged beings of light came in, and how I healed. To be honest, I healed through their voice and through the presence. And I started then to do theta healing. So I learned how to be a theta healer, but for myself. And started to do the Djed Meditations, which just came in intuitively. And I did also see some pretty big healers to help me clear all the residue and things like that.
Talk about the Djed Meditations. Do you think that's where they got Star Wars from? The Jedis?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Interestingly, I had Lucasfilms contact me.
Wow. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, but they were not happy about me using the word Jedi in connection to the Djed. So I specifically am not using the word Jedi, but I was using it as Jedi Meditations originally, because it does come from that. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Djed, they were the original Jedi warriors. Definitely. Yeah.
In Africa.
Yes, in Africa, exactly. Yeah. In Mali, it started. Yeah.
It's interesting. You've been you channeled that, or and you never even been there. All those teachings. I wonder if you lived there before in a past life. You were
I'm very connected to Africa. Very connected. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and I have to say, I was just saying this to my daughter actually just a minute ago. I have to say that out of all the places I've been in the world, when I'm in Africa, something here just I don't know what it is. Something in the energy or in the environment just opens up. I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
You obviously had an awakening, and you wrote a beautiful book, and I want you to touch on that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Divine Love, and how did that all come about? And would love to walk into the chapter. Well, you mentioned them throughout your book, the winged beings of ancient deities. Am I saying that right? Was that how
The
you
winged beings of
worded it?
light.
Of light, ancient deities, and
Yeah.
maybe you can
Yeah.
touch on that for us if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the winged beings of light are a collection of I don't know how to describe that. They're a collection of different deities from the Kemetic Empire from that around that time, not limited to that period. I think I've got about 7 or 8 different energies that come in. Collectively, the winged beings of light. They come in to teach truth in terms of original teachings from the Kemetic times, which have nothing to do with today's world, and empowerment, love, divine love, self-love, sovereignty, and source is in there. God is also represented in there. So they bring a lot of messages about how these times are times not just to wake up, but there's a lot of filth in the environment. There's a lot of rubbish around, and they're quite strict or quite to the point. They're the kind of collective that doesn't beat about the bush. So we're not necessarily talking about a love and light thing. They're quite firm with what's happening, which they talk about in the book, and how it's absolutely time for us all to start being more powerful, because otherwise humanity's just going in a direction which is not positive.
What's interesting is you bring up ancient Kemet. Like that got robbed from history. I wonder, did they ever tell you why, or how did they just start coming to you? I mean, they just one day they just, you talk about Isis, a set. Her Kemetic name was a set.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
whoa, you mentioned them. You mentioned Thoth, Dehudi.
Yeah.
But man, like, how did that all happen? How did that all start to come to you?
Yeah, I know. Isn't it mad? I never channeled in my life. I'm not joking. I'm not even one of these people that wanted to channel,
Hmm.
right? I never even wanted to write a book. I've never wanted to write. I'm not good at writing. I'm good at filming. It came about. I seriously, I sat down, and this sounds so blasé, but it's so true. I could feel I needed to write, and I literally was starting writing on the computer, and I allowed myself to write what was coming through, and it was the entire book. It was the beginning of this book, and the book is the first time I channeled them. It's not like I even channeled them before I started writing. And prior to that, I did have some kind of divine intervention, because I saw Archangel Sandalphon appear in front of me as a massive holographic being in front of me, like really, again, completely out of the blue and unexpected. And something I think must have shifted during that interaction, because he appeared and then he sort of went, and then it was shortly after that I started to channel the winged beings of light.
Wow.
Mm.
Even if people doubt you, if they start to read your book, I mean, there's so much deep insight, wisdom, a lot of
Mm.
knowledge, and I really appreciate it. I haven't even finished reading it, but I'm like, wow, this ain't no phony baloney. I'll tell you that much right now, because there's a lot of wisdom,
Yeah.
and mysticism and so on, um, in that book. So I really appreciate it. It was definitely you
Oh,
channeled it, and I appreciate that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, you know, when the word's coming through, you know it's not your voice. And you just think, wow, this, like, I just need to write what's coming in. And it isn't even until you read it back to yourself that you think, oh my God, what is this? And then it carried on for about 7 or 8 months. Yeah.
Another thing, what I love
So,
about your book is it's
mm,
very empowering.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
who are we? You know, did they tell you who we really are? I mean, a lot of times we're just sinners, we're just alcoholics, we're addicts, we're this, we're that, very lower vibration labels.
Yeah.
But who are we really? Did they give you any insight on that? Which I know you
Yeah,
talk
I
a lot
mean,
about.
absolutely. We are all, first of all, we're all children of the light. We're all children of God. Every single one of us is a divine spark. All of
Mhm.
us. And we are all powerful people. We're all so powerful. We can change our lives. We really, really can. And I think the book is for people who have reached a low point or are in a low point and they're fed up of the normal law of attraction type stuff. And, you know, I don't know, sometimes just writing beliefs down on the fridge and all that stuff. The Winged Beings of Light, the book, which I really realized and understood, it's cathartic for anyone who reads it. It
Mm.
it slowly shifts every single reader into more of who they are. It's a very powerful book. And it's the kind of book which it comes to you when you need it. You know that saying, this teacher appears when you're looking for it. And I think that book
Mm.
is the teacher for someone who's going through, who needs help, really, who's at the last resort and really needs some support. That book's gonna change you.
Yeah, thank you. Um, the winged beings in your book talk about how we devalue children.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
we devalue children, and we don't we don't what's the wording you used? We don't value their intelligence.
Right.
Um, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, when we're born, we're coming straight from source. You
Mm.
know, we're born with all that wonderful energy. Then what happens is we come into this world, and it's obviously, this world is it's a madness, this world. And it's all completely suppressed or ignored, because we tend to think that, oh, they're just children, they don't know anything. Or, just put them in front of the TV for a bit, they'll enjoy the program. But no, actually, I mean, kids are in I mean, they're so intuitive, they're so with it, they're so synchronized. And we have to not just value that, but include their intelligence amongst us.
Mm.
And that peace that they can bring to the table, which is, that's their perspective of a situation. It doesn't mean that it's um, lower than an adult's perspective.
Mm.
It's theirs. And it can really help all of us, including kids, a lot more in the debates, and getting their ideas about what's really going on in the world before they lose the connection through the system.
Yeah, thank you. You also talked a lot about being fed fear. You talk about the old structures are starting to break down. Are those the old structures of what were put together by these elites or these other forces that are controlling everyone? Because it seems like something's
Um,
controlling us. Like we're always getting fed fear,
of
hatred,
course,
lower, like putting people in a lower vibration without even realizing it. From the almost from the very start of time, it seems like.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, when we're told the old structures are breaking down in the book, It's on two levels. It's specifically talking to the reader about their life,
Awesome.
because the book is something which is quite it's one's personal journey when they read it. So structures breaking down, it's like your fear is being dissolved. Let go and release the old structure and paradigm. Now it's time to be in your power, which of course is a little bit what happened to me, being suppressed through the whole spell thing. At the same time, structures are breaking down, but I do think they break down if more of us could break our own structures down first.
Yeah, you're right. I
you
think they
know,
go together, right? The more
right? They
we
go
break
together.
down those structures in ourselves, the
Yeah,
outer stuff starts to break down as well. So yeah, you're right.
exactly. And it is about confronting ourselves. It's the hardest thing to do. It's very hard to acknowledge that you've been lied to all your life.
Mm,
That what you've been told and fed is not valid or not the truth. And also to confront your actions if you've maybe done things that don't feel right. Confront it all. At the end of the day, it's just a paradigm you've created, and you can create a new one.
mm,
But it has to start with you inside, and it does require courage. That's why I say this book is not, it's not a lovey-dovey sit with the angels book, sit on the clouds, and no, that's not going to get you anywhere. You've got to grow up as a soul and start making decisive changes in your
yeah.
life, to change.
Yeah, thank you. You also have exercises in there about like how to tap into our higher self, or empowering ourselves. What are some of the things you can give us, like an example how to do that for those people that may be listening?
Yeah, how do we? It's so simple. Really, it's just when you sit and meditate, isn't it? You go in and you find that still point. This is what I do with teaching the Djed. You find that still point and you blast that out. This is me in my world and my reality. No one else's reality is coming in here. No brainwashing rubbish is coming in here. This is my realm. And sit there and do that and find your inside here and listen to it. And I think more you meditate and you do these kind of things, the old fears bit by bit go, or you start attracting new energies which then can guide you to getting the support that you need.
Mm,
But your higher self, I always say, is your it's the key. That's the first point. Before other energies, before the winged beings of light, before anyone else, you got to be in your higher self. It's your starting point. So call it in meditation.
yeah, thank you. You also mentioned Christ a number of times throughout the book. Who was Christ? Is he someone different than what we're told?
Oh yeah. Well, I call him a shaman. We call him a shaman.
Yeah.
Christ is a revolutionary. I mean, whether you want to call him a political activist or, personally, why was he the son of God? We're all sons of God. There was nothing more superior about Christ than there is about any of us,
Thank
right?
you.
He was just coming to teach us that.
Yeah.
But, look, I grew up as a Roman Catholic, okay, but I don't believe in any of it anymore. I really don't believe in any of it anymore. I don't think that there's anything in between you and God. I don't agree with priests or anything like that. Nothing should be an intermediary. Nothing is superior to you. It's you and creator and source, and that's it. If I talk about the winged beings of light or any higher energies, it's simply that they're ascended and more evolved, but they're not superior to humans. Angels aren't superior to us. The only thing that's more powerful really to us than us is God, our creator. So this is just the way I see it. Many people disagree, but I don't think any of the entities that I channel are superior to the ordinary person. They're just awake, but they're not more important.
No, you're right. I mean, I totally agree with you, and you're confirming a lot of stuff. What's come to me, I always say between me, you, and God, there's no in between. And Christ and all these other
Exactly.
characters, we're all for one reason, to show us who we really are, because we have forgotten. And it
Right.
seems like the church kind of created Christ in a certain way to disempower people from their true
Right.
divinity. That's why they were throwing the Gnostic Gospels in the Nile River, burning them. But we were lucky enough to find them. I think like something helped us find these Gospels that were more empowering, telling us to go within
Yeah.
and find out who we really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I honestly think this whole world is a game. I'm not
Yeah.
joking. It's
You're
a
right.
game. It's a game between, okay, on the overall, we are all guided by a higher intelligence. There's no doubt about that. We have a creator, and there is this benevolent source, absolutely. But at the same time, there is a presence of something else not right here. And it's the play between that and good and bad, or whatever you call it. It helps us to grow here. And boy, do we have to grow. We really do. But it's almost like a game going on. And religion and all the rest of it, with wars and all of that, it's all man-made, created nonsense. And we have to get to the bottom of this nonsense, because it's not normal. It's not normal for humanity to kill each other. It's not normal. So
What do you think prevents us from growing?
it's the system. It's the, whether you call it the dark side or what, this is preventing us from growing. And it's, it's what's going on there also is not normal. It's not supposed to be so bad. It's not supposed to be so hard or tough. But this system on Earth is mad now. And I think the reason we are having the winged beings of light, and we are getting a lot of people who are channeling and all of that, is because we've called in help. Wow. Because boy, do we need a lot of help on this planet, because things are not right at all. They're not right. So that's what stops us from growing.
Do you believe there's other divine beings, or actually not divine beings, but other evil type beings, like the archons or stuff like you hear in the Gnostic texts? And if so,
Absolutely.
can they affect us if we're in a low vibration?
There are definitely hundreds, thousands of different species on the planet, right? Just because we can't see them. I mean, I do see spirits and things like that. I know there are many different things happening on all different frequencies all the time, all the time. Yes, they can affect you if you're on a very, very low vibration. Sorry, they can. I mean, we can get soul attachments. We can get energies feeding off our energy. I mean, I've had them. I've experienced them, and I clear them from people also. And the lower we go, And the more ignorant we are, we unfortunately become sometimes more of a victim to these things. Because people don't realize what normal is anymore. You know, what you're supposed to truly feel like. It's like depression becomes normal, you know? That's just how it is, man. This is just how it is. I go to work, I do this, I do that. No, it's not how it is at all. You know, so that's how they affect us. And I think that's why we sometimes are also deliberately, as people, I mean, I know everybody says it all the time now, but we're deliberately dumbed down continuously. All
through
the time.
sports, through history, through education system,
Everything.
anything you can think of, it's like, holy shit.
Everything. You know, and entertainment's the biggest one. Keep them on Netflix. Especially the young generation. Keep them on Disney. I mean, spend all your time with your attention somewhere else, so you don't realize what's going on. You know, it's a madness. Computer games. I mean, young people are constantly on their phone. Constantly on. I mean, they don't. This new generation doesn't know what it was like to not have a mobile phone. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's not normal. Trust me, it's not normal. And what's the next generation going to be like? Oh, it's normal to have a chip here and pay for my food with my hand or my palm or something. It's not normal. So the control is people aren't aware, I think, of the surveillance and the level of surveillance. And I mean, it's two things, isn't it? One, you can not be aware, but the other thing is you can also not want to be aware, which is so much easier.
Wow. You brought up soul attachments. What is soul attachments? Because I've heard you mention that a number of times before.
It's when other entities that are not incarnate have not passed over. So when someone dies, naturally they pass into another dimension, and then they kind of move on their spiritual journey. You know, they meet their guides and they get taken into the afterlife. But some souls don't, and they kind of still hang around and linger in our 3D system, and they need to stay alive. They need a source of energy so they can actually attach themselves to a living being. If your vibration is low enough, they're usually, so when a soul doesn't move on, their vibration is always pretty low because they don't realize what's happened and they're in a state of loss and desperation. And they can attach themselves to someone else who's feeling the same vibration. And they hang around with you for years. I had people hang around with me for a long time, years.
Wow.
When I had the spell, my vibration was very, 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 very low for a very long time, and I had entities hanging around with me for years.
Well, I'm picturing one of those freshwater fishes when you go to the fish store and you'll see those algae fish sticking onto the glass.
Yeah.
I feel that like. But
yeah, they do. I mean, I remember I moved home. Right, I actually moved homes, flats, and my attachments followed me to my new home. Just like set their tent up in the living room, and I'm like, oh god. Yeah, I mean, they're completely harmless, right? Really. I mean, it's just they like you give them a sense of comfort, you know.
So would you say we're more attracted to them when we're in a lower vibration, like when we're like a lot of fear, we have a lot of unresolved trauma, a lot of always in stress, and so on? Or does that attract them? Kind of like flies on shit. Excuse me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. And it's usually when you are also in you might be in a place which For example, you get a lot of souls in underground stations and metros. When you're in these places, that's where you pick them up. So, I mean, if you're in a very low vibration, but you're at home or you're with family, it's quite unlikely. It's more when you then kind of frequent, places which have a low energy also.
Wow, thank you. I've been hearing more and more about this. So, and you said exactly what I've been hearing. So you're
Yeah,
definitely confirming that, and I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
it's all right.
What would you call the difference between spirituality and religion? I often like to ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, they're two totally different things. I mean, religion is false. It is. It's a man-made thing. It's a man-made concept. It's just a group of ideas bunched together to control people. For spirituality is your essence. It's who you are. You are a spiritual being. You're not a religious being.
Oh, yeah.
Religion's just a whole heap of rituals and nonsense, and a pile of things someone's written together and told you that's the law to keep you in fear most of the time.
Yeah, thank you. I love how you bring up. You often talk about the law of attraction bubble.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Law of attraction.
Yeah, bubble.
It's just a beginner's level.
Mm,
I mean, it's. I have to say that the people I attract, or the kind of students, and I have a wonderful group of people around me. I attract very kind of evolved souls. I first came across the law of attraction when I was like 17. I mean, we're talking about maybe 30 years ago or something like that, way before The Secret came out and things like that.
mm,
So it's nothing new to me. Yeah, you start there, but I have to say it doesn't shift anything if you already have trauma.
mm,
It's fine if you haven't got fixed mindsets and all the rest of it. Sure, you can attract what you want. We're always attracting what we want because we're creating everything anyway.
mm,
But if you've lived life a bit and you've been through some ups and downs, it's just a layer on the cake. It's just a thin piece of icing which is going to kind of give you an inkling of what things really are about. But there's much bigger things at play than just meditating on what you want,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. One thing you mentioned in your book, and I love that you said this, and thank you, because for me, I always felt like I needed to. I always felt like I don't need to forgive myself.
Mm,
But I hear that you hear that in the spiritual
I
communities.
know.
We need to forgive ourselves. But for me, it's not about forgiving myself. It's really just understanding.
Yep.
What I've been through, understanding and
Right.
questioning and learning, and that develops into awareness, and then that everything else dissolves when you have that deeper insight of the nature of one's suffering, of my suffering.
Right.
Like there was no need to
Absolutely.
forgive. Like it was just okay. This wasn't my fault. This is what happened. This is how it affected my brain and my body, and et cetera, et cetera. And it just like, oh, okay. It just like understanding is love's other name, and I believe there's no
Exactly.
need to forgive. It's really about understanding of what
Yes.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. This is because when, you know, if I think of my life, I had this spell. It's been a terrible thing for me. I mean, I can't even begin to. It's very difficult to explain to people the level of trauma because no one else has been through it, and it's something. I mean, my whole piece of my life's really the most. Those prime years are gone. You can't go back then.
mm,
Um, and yet I had to find a way to resolve that in myself. And everybody was saying, all these books that I used to go to the bookstores, oh, forgive yourself for what happened. I thought, well, actually, I didn't do anything to myself. Somebody put a spell on me. I don't really have anything to forgive myself about, but I still have to come to terms with it. And I realized that there was nobody out there that was sort of really talking about the fact that you just have to. I mean, when I was hearing the word forgive, it was making me feel like I did something wrong. It made me feel worse,
Mm,
and I was at a point where I don't need to feel worse. Why should I feel guilty in a sense for what happened to me? It's not a guilt thing.
mm,
And that's when also the wing beings of light, and I realized that there's actually things are very simple, right? We have all these words and all these things, do this, do that, and everything, but it very simply comes down to the fact that you just love yourself and realize that you're a child of God and let it go, right? Not easy to let go, but in the power that you have as a soul, that in itself starts to dissolve the story, and you can move forward from that point without having to justify, forgive this, that, and the other. Sometimes shadow work, I don't agree with it. Sometimes I don't agree with all this healing stuff. I think it's a waste of time. I think if you can just sit with yourself and connect with yourself, and maybe it's not easy for everyone to do it, but
mm,
it's the first point of contact, is just to go inside and then find that power that starts to then just break or help you see everybody else's love, and realize, own it. It's more about owning a situation than forgiving,
mm,
in a way. When you own something, you take responsibility for what happened. And when you do that, you stop looking outside of yourself for answers. And the minute you take responsibility for whatever happened, doesn't matter how it happened, but it's in your reality, so somehow you've orchestrated it. Own what you can from it. See it as an experience that you created. And when you can do that, it really empowers you so much,
mm.
because that's when you realize you then have the power to create a new one.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. Again, it's very empowering in your book. Your book's very empowering, and it talks about going
Mm.
within, and I really appreciate that, because like the church will tell you, you need Jesus to do this for you, but then in the Gnostic text, Jesus is telling you to go within. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very empowering. So I appreciate that. Another thing I love about your book
Mm.
is you mentioned the
Yeah.
sun, and you said without the sun shining, there would be no life. So I'm paraphrasing you, and you says every culture has a prayer and ritual, I believe, something like that,
Yeah.
and so we're all honoring the sun. Without him, we wouldn't have life, right?
Yeah.
Um, you also mentioned something about the sun is a star of wisdom and delight, or something like
Right.
that. Those words, but it was just really beautiful, and because a lot of the ancients, worship the sun. That's why we have that on December 25th. We have all these holy days that we call
Yeah.
holidays, and people don't know that. Um, with during that time, but yeah, I really appreciate you writing that. For some reason, it
Yeah.
really touched me.
Well, the sun is we go way, 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 way back. Way before any of this Sumerian stuff. The first worship to anything was the sun and the moon.
Right.
Before any human created an ideology, we had the sun and the moon, and that's something you can't deny. You see it in the sky. You can't make that up, right? And that's the beginning. That's the source. So that is life. That brings the earth. It creates the days. The moon constructs, regulates time. The sun brings us life and warmth. I mean, if anything, these are the most spiritual things that we have, are the planets and the
Mm.
stars. And that's where we all come from anyway. We're all created from the same matter as planets and stars. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, thank you. Do you think that's why the church worships on Sunday? Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they've all got days. I think Tuesday is Mars Day. In French, it's like Mardi, and Martedì in Italian. It's like Mars. I mean, Saturn is Saturday. They all have a relevance. So that, I mean, astrotheology's massive.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
It makes more sense to me.
Everything's built around that originally.
Thank
I
you.
mean, even the whole Hebrew
The star.
code is built around Saturn and planets.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Or even the Last Supper. You see them all in sets of threes.
right?
4 sets. 4 times 2 is
Exactly,
12. Then you see Jesus as the sun, the four seasons,
exactly.
and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's all,
interesting.
yeah, it's all. I mean, it's all the primordial gods or creators are the planets for sure. I mean, all the whole equinox and all these sort of 12,000-year periods that we get. I mean, none of this is an accident.
Yeah,
The
you're right.
Fibonacci code, all of this. I mean, it's a highly intelligent creation. This whole system we live in is a
Mm.
highly advanced creation. And we're still figuring out what the hell's going on, because there's something going on, right? We're not here by any random chance
Yeah.
at all. But the governments like to tell us that we're just a whole heap of sheep. Really, do this, do that, go there, that's good for you, eat this, that will make you feel better, take this medicine. I mean, they like to think that we've got no intelligence at all,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. I mean,
no,
Islam,
it's not.
they have the moon. In Judaism, they
Right.
have the star. In Christianity,
Exactly.
they have the sun, S-U-N. I
Yeah,
am the light of the world,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Well, Judaism, even it started as a moon worship religion.
Yeah,
It was all about the
you're right.
moon.
Yeah, interesting.
So what you have today is nothing even comparable to what the root of the religion was in the first place anyway, at all. But people don't realize that.
Mm. I was
uh,
talking to
you
some
know
Jehovah Witness friends the other day.
yeah,
Well, they came knocking on my door, and we had a healthy conversation. But I said, I don't believe Yahweh was God, the source. He was a psychopath. If you really read the
yeah,
scriptures.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all these scriptures they were just like figures at the time. People, I mean, I think half of them are even made up.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
be
you're
honest.
right. There's no doubt they were made up, because you can't find
um
any historical facts or like any official like evidence that they were actually here. There's nothing written.
exactly, exactly. I mean, it's like we're just told that they're true because we're told it, but I don't know if that's the truth or not. you
Mm,
know it's I mean, I'm reaching a point in my life where I'm realizing that so much of what I've been told is a load of rubbish and is
mm,
not true. um I think even realized just quite recently that Christmas isn't really the day Jesus was born.
no,
um it's another date, and we're celebrating the another deity.
Many
Um,
deities,
I
yeah.
won't go on. Yeah, I
Mithras.
won't go into that now. But I mean, even this, I'm like thinking, oh my God, like even that, right? Even Christmas has been taken away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, I
mad.
appreciate it. I guess I'll ask you one last question. What's your
Mm.
understanding of God?
We are God. It's us.
Thank you.
We are God. Uh, of course there is a higher intelligence, no doubt, but we're from that higher intelligence. It's part of us, and we're part of it.
Mm,
Um, it's who we are. It's where we derive from. We are God. I love telling religious people that I'm God.
yeah.
They think I'm totally mad, but we are God. You're God. We're all children of God.
Yeah, you're right. I told a couple pastors that before. Be still, know I am God. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? Sometimes I do wonder how people have been so brainwashed. But maybe it's, I presume you've been on a particular path also, which brings you to question and now be who you are today.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
you know, but it does. I do sometimes think that we live in a world of idiots.
Mhm.
Really, I have to say that, but it's true. I do. I think that the majority of the population are something not right here. Too brainwashed now. Too
Mm,
much. Because people don't seem to see the bits in between.
mm,
And it's so evident to me sometimes what's happening around us. But a lot of people, I don't know, they're still quite content just going shopping and buying some new clothes.
yeah.
I don't know. Are we in the minority? I don't know. You interview lots of people. You tell me.
Well, I always say that I think the greatest minority in today's world has nothing to do with skin color. It's authenticity. We've been
Yeah.
robbed by these elites that are trying to dummy us down and keep us in mass ignorance, like I've
Oh, yeah.
heard you mention.
Yeah.
And have us hold on to all these belief systems and labels that blind us from our oneness with ourselves and with life itself. You know, so
I mean, how many divisions do we need in sexuality?
yeah,
How many ethnic divisions do we need? How many color divisions do we need? I mean, it's madness. And then, like, people get offended if you don't remember what you're supposed to call them by. And I mean, sometimes it's offensive to even call
that's
someone by
fun.
their true name. Isn't that your name? No, I changed it, and now you by law you have. I'm like, oh my God, it is absolutely mad. This is why I think we live in a mad, mad world. I
Mm,
mean, the things they talk about at school these days are completely ludicrous as well. Absolutely nonsense. I mean, they teach teenagers things that they shouldn't talk about,
mm,
and it's in the national curriculum and all a whole heap of rubbish stuff, introducing young people to social issues, sexual problems, homeless problems, this problem, that problem. These kids are like 10 years old, and you're trying to grow them up already, and feed some kind of fear into them at that age. They were talking about having a rape alarm in primary school.
wow.
Madness.
But
Yeah,
they don't teach
madness.
them how to meditate or life skills, coping skills,
Yeah,
how to deal with stress. They don't teach them.
yeah,
I think it was the Dalai Lama that once says, if you could teach every 8-year-old how to meditate, this world will change in the next by the next generation. They don't teach them that. They don't teach them how to go back to their breathing. They don't teach them how to talk about things and communicate and all that stuff. They just feed fear, 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 fear.
exactly.
Yeah, you're right,
Exactly.
man. So right.
Exactly. And then it's normal to grow up in that environment. You build your entire life around that, you know. Um and then they find a way to take the money from you by giving you things which ensure that that's not going to happen, or this is not going to happen. Insurance for this, insurance for that, tax on this. If you want more protection against this, pay for that. And it's just like, I mean, it's mad. This whole, you can go through your whole life just paying to survive through it, literally, and not realizing the freedom and the inner. You never realize you have any power or any voice. Wow. And that's what's sad.
Well,
yeah.
Do you have any last words for us that you would like to touch on that you may have forgotten to touch on, or wanted to touch on, or something about your book?
Well, definitely, if anyone's thinking about getting the book, get it. Because if you come across this podcast and you've heard about the book, it means you're meant to get the book. It just works that way with this book. But also, I really, really want to tell people or ask people to take more responsibility, not just in their own lives, but there has to be some kind of action to shift this world or this system, because I presently don't think there are enough people standing up about what's going on. I mean, this whole, we've got a world we've got war almost everywhere now. This is not normal. You can finance billions and billions of dollars to kill people, but yet there are people starving around the world, people without enough food, or this whole, I just think people need to really look at the facts of what's going on. That's it, and actually do something about it.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate this. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk, and for reading my book. That's very, very kind. Very kind of you.
Really quick, how do we find you? And I will definitely upload it with the links with this episode. But maybe you can give us a shout out how we can find you and some of the stuff you do, that you offer.
Yeah, so it's www.londonthetahealer.com, and that's the same as my email, londonthetahealer@gmail.com. Drop me a line if you resonate. On my website, there's also information about the Djed Meditations that we do. And yeah, just kind of lots of different links on there. But yeah, get in touch if this podcast calls you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'll end it with one of your quotes in the book. And it says, if we truly loved ourselves, we would focus only on enriching the joy of our soul, replenishing the source of real peace and joy. So thank you.
Yeah.
I really loved your
book, and I
look forward to continue to read it and study it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namastizzle.
Namaste. Thank you.
Just know we out here. Know we out here working in a major way. Had to speak on it just to make a play. Any given subject, know we make a way. Time to level up on a day-to-day. Know we out here working for the greater good. Expand your mind, broaden your lens the way you should. From the stars to the galaxy to speak on spirituality. Higher understanding for the neighborhood.